I am your phone bank lead for Swing Left Tri-Valley today. I want to thank everyone for their time, valuable time to come and help because we only have 24 more days.
Yay!
Election. Before hopefully there's peace and quiet on November 4th. I will be sleeping all day. But in any case, thank you everyone, because at this point in time, all hands and ears on deck is so much needed and helpful. And I did want to state up front, well, when so many people are here already, if during my talk and going through the agenda, a fly lands on my head,
Oh my God.
I want to state right now, I am in no way related to Mike Pence. Okay, and the fly can stay on my head anytime because it's a good head of hair. Anyway, thank you so much. Now with so many volunteers, I think the best way for us to introduce who's here is if I would ask each and every one of you to please, on the chat box, put your name, the city you're from, and if you could please tell us if you're a new phone banker or a veteran caller. That way we'll know who everybody's online, because we do really have to get going. We don't have as much time today. We have a lot of information. But I want to tell you, what's fantastic today is we have the opportunity to have, again, to meet virtually a great candidate that we're supporting today. And I want to let you know it's from Kyoko's great back behind the scenes work that we get to people like Gail. And so she is here today. Gail Young is our North Carolina candidate for State House. And then her campaign coordinator for California is Holly Scheider. So at this point, I think we'll just go ahead and have Gail talk for about 10 minutes, tell us about herself, her platform, and then we'll have a short session afterwards for just Q&A. So if you have any questions, please put that also in the chat box, and we'll make sure to address it when Gail is finished. Okay? So if you could please start putting your names in the chat box where you're from, and if you're new to phone banking, that's great. So I will go ahead and turn it over to our guest of honor today, Ms. Gail Young, who is going for the House seat for North Carolina District 83. So take it away, Ms. Young.
So thank you, Swing Left. Thank you very much for making a commitment to this race and helping me to get elected. I actually started running in 2018, and I actually was running against the incumbent that I'm running against now, Mr. Pittman. And in 2018, I won the county where we both live, which was 80% of the precinct, or 80% of the district. There were 4 precincts in Rowan County, which is an adjacent county that had 3 Republicans to every Democrat, and he won that, which threw him over the top. So that's how I have personally experienced gerrymandering. If it had not have been for gerrymandering, I would have already been seated in the North Carolina House. So the fortunate news is we had another court case, another battle about the lines, and this district was redrawn again. And it's now completely within the county that I live in and the incumbent lives in as well. It actually goes from the middle of Concord, which is a city north of Charlotte, down through Harrisburg, which is a city north of Charlotte. The thing to understand about this district is it's really kind of a bedroom community of Charlotte. There's a lot of people who live there and work in Charlotte. So that's kind of the group that we're calling into. There's a lot of well-educated individuals in this district. I am one of 6 seats that we are really trying hard to make sure that we win so that we can swing control of the North Carolina House back to the Democrats. We've had 10 years in which the Republicans were very egregious in how they drew the lines. And that's my main reason for running. I had a nonprofit event organization called Citizens in Action, and we did voter education to help people understand how voter suppression worked and why voting was so important. And that's when I really realized what had happened in North Carolina. And so in my community, we talked about what gerrymandering was, and we got cards together that people said they wanted to put an end to it. We were not doing this as a partisan effort. It was bipartisan. And I took it to Raleigh, and I realized when I talked with my representatives that they didn't care. They felt like they had won the prize and that they were going to continue to do this. And that's when I decided that I was going to run for office. And if you can't get the attention, then get a seat at the table and make change happen is my philosophy. So I have a background in local government. I was worked for Land Use Environmental Services Agency, and I was over budgeting, finance, HR for that agency, change management, all of those kind of areas. So I do understand money and budgeting and how effectively to use money. And I understand being responsive to our customer base from my previous work. I'm also a leadership consultant for Roger Schwartz and Associates, which is a firm out of Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And we have clients all over the country. We don't have much work right now because of COVID, but we do have clients that are all over the country. The key things in my area that are important to my community is education. North Carolina has went from being one of the best states in education to one of the worst in the past 10 years. And so it is really important that we get our teacher pay back up to standard, that we pay teachers for their work on advanced degrees, that we actually pay the per pupil cost of education, and that we improve education to the point that everyone, regardless of where they live, gets the same quality of education. The state legislature here has done a lot to, they say promote choice, but it's to create charter schools that they hold to a different standard. They hold the public schools to a high standard and the charter schools to a much less standard. And so that's how kind of education has deteriorated. I also believe in pre-K for children to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to excel. And I believe that we have to follow through to helping those, our graduates from high school, either attend college or get a job that's well paying in a technical area of their interest. So that's one of the key issues. In my district specifically, we have a lot of students learning in trailers because we can't get the state legislature to help us with approving to put a bond referendum on the agenda so that we can borrow money to build schools. In North Carolina, the building itself is supposed to be provided by the county, and the funding of the education in general, teachers and supplies, is supposed to come from the state. So that's one. And secondly is affordable health care. We are one of the few states that never expanded Medicaid, and that we need to rectify. It's good business sense to expand Medicaid, but it also covers some 600,000 people that currently don't have coverage. I would say that number comes pre-COVID, so it's probably significantly higher now at this point with the number of people that do not have health care. I think it's the state legislators' responsibility to ensure that their constituents can afford health care and that prescriptions are reasonable and that health care costs are transparent. So that's one of the other things that I talk a lot about. And then we have a lot of growth issues. We have infrastructure around making sure our roads are built and the supporting aspects of growth are there so that we are a competitive area and that we are trying to draw well-paying jobs that pay living wages into Cabarrus County. And, you know, if you heard me from the beginning, I said I was with Land Use Environmental Services. So I'm really an environmentalist, and I believe that we have to do what we can to protect the environment and ensure that our state is here for our future generations. So that's very important to me as well. So thank you, because this is a tight race. It is a slightly Republican district. The incumbent that I'm running against is vulnerable. I have a lot of connections in the community, and a lot of connections with elected officials who are Republican, who want to work with me and want to make Cabarrus County the best that we possibly can make it. So it is a really close race. We've done 2 polls, and it shows, the first one showed us neck and neck, and the second one showed me slightly ahead. So let's keep that trend going in that direction, and in 24 days, carry a win home. So thank you for your time. It's efforts like yours that make a huge difference in a race like mine, because once again, it's not a suburban area full of Democrats, so it's harder to get volunteers. So I really appreciate your efforts.
Well, thank you, Gail. As I said, Swing Left Tri-Valley phone bankers only support great candidates. Only great candidates. So not to worry. Thank you so much. For the people who came in late, we actually had the honor of having Gail Young, who is one of our target assignments today. She is a candidate for the House seat in North Carolina, and Holly Scheider is her California campaign coordinator. So, and again, if you haven't put your name in the chat box and with the city you're from, and if you're a new or a veteran phone banker, please do that. I have a couple of questions for you, Gail, and then also for Holly. So I'm going to go first, if you don't mind. If anybody else has questions for Gail, please put them in the chat box and we'll get them to you. Okay, so my first question is for you, Gail, is are you still doing food drives?
No, for this last month, we are not, because we had to really focus on the campaign and trying to turn out as many people as we can. But just for those of you that don't know, whenever COVID hit, we tried to figure out what it was that we wanted to do, and campaigning did not feel right at that moment in time. But we were concerned, I was concerned about the lack of resources for people who were without their jobs. And so we switched the operation over to actually collecting food and taking it to local food pantries. So we would call in every week, and it was a good way also for people to understand who I was and what was important to me. So we would call in and arrange for a food pickup, and then we would go get the food and take it to our local food pantry. And in that process, we did that for several months and ended up transporting over 9,000 pounds of food to our local food pantry. So, which they were so appreciative, because, you know, at a time like this, we all just need to band together.
That's a phenomenal idea. That's wonderful. And I'm sure the people that you had involved in there will probably carry it on, because you're too busy campaigning. There's one question here from someone in the group that says, any Republican endorsements? I'm not quite sure about that, but
I think they're probably asking, does anybody have the North Carolina is an interesting state. We used to be more Democrat than Republican, but we've always been close. I would say we're a purple state. And in Cabarrus County specifically, there became a season, so to speak, when there was such Republican control that the only way you could actually be in office was to be a Republican. I'm kind of breaking the mold. I'll be the first Democrat elected in more years than I can count. It's been a while. So no, I have a lot of support from previous elected officials who were Democrats and have now become unaffiliated. I have the support of our mayor who was unaffiliated, and our current mayor who is unaffiliated, because that's where they fall. And then a lot of the people who support me that I personally know are Republicans, but it's not an area of the country where they make it that visible. They just, when people come and ask, who do we need to vote for, they tell them to vote for me. So that they want to work with me.
That's wonderful. That's great. We will do that too.